So the last week or so I was witnessing a bigger kind of a bee, almost like a bumblebee type, going into this little pipe coming out of my house. This leads to my laundry room. I think it's like a vent or something. But anyway, they were going in there. She was bringing in little green leaves, and look at what she did. She totally encapsulated it. Totally sealed it off. So she probably has her little young in there. Let's go kind of pan out a little. And it's just a little pipe in my wall. Let me come over to the side. Yeah, would you look at that? I mean, I know they love living in these kind of tubes and stuff. So I remember back in the day, probably a couple years ago, I actually bought one of those. You know, it was made of like wood or thin tubes and stuff. It didn't really last very long. It got eaten up. But using these metal pipings right here to make some of those, now that's a good idea. So I think that's going to be a project. We're going to make a little bee or insect hotel. It'll be fun. Bring in some pollinators. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to RIVERA'S Urban Homestead. I know the last few weekends I've been pretty busy with different events. We had the Easter party / birthday party for my nephews. We had the crawfish boil last weekend. The weekend before that we were up in Clearwater hanging out with my brother that flew into town. So a lot of different things going on. This weekend we have nothing going on except analyzing some stuff in the garden, doing some stuff around the homestead. So that is what we're going to be doing this morning. We're going to analyze the garden. We're going to see what's going on with some of the tomato plants. We're going to try and cut some clippings off of some of the tomato plants that aren't doing well and repot them and hopefully get another tomato plant out of it. And we'll talk about some things that we can do here in Zone 9 in May to help your plants out a little bit. So let's get started. Let's start at the top of the garden. These two tomato plants, I would say, get probably the least amount of sun. They get shaded in the afternoon first, and they are doing the best. So one thing that I'm observing is the sun is just too intense for too long, especially with these tomatoes in these big pots. But these two are getting just the right amount of sun, and look at them, they're looking great. The Amish paste just looking beautiful with a lot of tomatoes still growing, so it's really doing good right here. It gets the least amount. And right next to it is the Cherokee Purple. It doesn't have a lot of fruit right now, but it is still looking really good, and there is still some tomatoes growing down in there. So these two plants are still looking really good. We're just going to keep letting them roll. I did notice that these two pots, they drain really good. They dry out like they're supposed to. So down here where the sun is a little bit longer in time, here is the yellow gooseberry not doing good at all. And again, these pots down here, they're not draining so well. And then that one was the black vernissage. There's not even a clipping I could take off of it to try and recoup it. It just never drained well and probably just drowned. I never flipped it over to, make bigger drain holes. So that's kind of my fault as well. So the yellow gooseberry we are going to try and take a clipping off of, and we're going to just try and cut this plant all the way back to where some of the growth is good. Over here, was the Boxcar Willie, and it is, it's hanging in there. It looks like it's getting some nice new green growth right here. So this pot, I think, has been draining pretty good. So looking good there. But yeah, I definitely noticed this one further out in the sun in these pots is not going good. So in the summertime, I would suggest maybe moving them, if you have them in pots, moving them to where they don't get as much sun. Like these two over here. These two don't get as much sun. They're looking great. Those down there both had drainage issues plus probably too much sun. My Korean dark green pepper plant is doing really well right here. It's got nice growth on it and it's got a lot of peppers. Nice. And the same with the Thai hybrid. Thai hybrid is looking really nice and producing a lot of peppers. Let's pick some. Pretty red. Okay, here is my purple jalapeno. This plant is looking kind of weird. You see how the top leaves are like getting some like a purplish scarring on them. I'm not quite sure what that is. If anyone knows why your pepper plants kind of start looking like that, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. Cayenne long slim. It looks like it's been getting eaten by something. If you check here, look at these. Look at the leaves. Yep, they were getting eaten up by something. But it looked like whatever it was is not here anymore because now the new growth is looking good. So let's pick some Cayenne long slim. Back there we have the Jimmy Nardello. It produced some peppers, but now it's just kind of dormant. It is a sweet pepper, so I don't know if it needs as much heat as the hot ones, so not quite sure. As far as the kale is still here. There's the scarlet kale, and of course over here we have the dinosaur kale. It's all still here, guys, but I've just been feeding it to the chickens. As the heat of the summer gets more intense, it tends to make the kale a little bitter for us. So, I mean, you could probably take it and saute it and it'll be fine, but I just feed it to the chickens. It's a great source of greens for them. So, this garden is also not just for us, but for the chickens. Alright, so there you go. A handful of peppers just picked. And I know I could be like dehydrating them, making red pepper flakes and all that stuff, but literally with that, I'll just buy a can of red pepper flakes at the store or cayenne powder at the store. We like them freshly picked. And then we just grab a freezer bag and throw them in. We just throw them in there. Look at all them peppers that we've gotten. We've got a lot of peppers so far. And these we'll just use in soups and kimchi and whatever Christine wants to use them in. Just like that. And they last a long time in the freezer, guys, so that's how I store my peppers. Oh, we got the pool out. It's like, heat index is like 90, I think, today. And this is what I was talking about with my tomato plants. The two that are doing good, you can barely see them with the camera, but they're in the shade already. And these still have a long way to go with the sun. So moving them into more afternoon shade as the summer gets going is a good thing to do in Zone 9.
It's a nice, beautiful day to have the pool out. And we went into a pool, but mine let me get up early because I couldn't sleep.
Oh, for your nap?
And I could not sleep at all.
So what are you doing now?
Just having fun in my pool. And you want to see a jump?
Hold on. Nice. Oh yeah. We're in our resort style pool, as you could tell. Alright guys, so I'm in the backyard. Found these pots right here we're going to use to take clippings off the tomato plants that are not doing well, and we're going to try and get them going off of a clipping. So I do have some of that Miracle Grow Organics for potting soil still. I had a whole bag I haven't even opened. So we're just going to fill these pots up and go get some clippings. So as you can see, I have not cleaned up my garden center yet. It is still full of these wild flower plants that grow. But let me tell you something. Even though I'm not cleaning it all up and keeping it pristine, all these flowers are just wonderful for all my pollinators. They love it. There's all kinds of different bees and flies and all kinds of different stuff just cruising around, like cruising around me right now. It's awesome. Like, here's my compost pile. I haven't done anything here, and just tons of flowers, just beautifully growing wild. Haha, there you go, there's one coming out. So like I was saying, it's okay that I don't keep it totally manicured all the time. What's up, buddy? What you doing? Whoa, nice display. Thank you. Wow, you are cool. One more. Thank you. Alright, let's get back to business. I'm getting sidetracked on my wildlife. Okay guys, so here's the yellow gooseberry. Obviously, as you can see, not doing very well. So I've just been looking to find a spot that has something good. And here it is. This piece right here, we're going to clip off. And we're going to use that to replant. So let's replant this one first so I don't get confused what I'm growing. Okay, so this is what we're going to be planting. What we want to do is take off the lower limbs. Just clip them off. Clip them off. Here there was some flowers trying to produce, so we don't want that. Clip that off. Clip that off. Here are some more flowers. We're going to cut them. Okay, we're going to leave it just like that. And now we're going to just plant the entire stem, because you might know if you plant stem portions of a tomato plant, they will grow roots. So, got a stick here. It's about, got a stick that's about the right depth. We're just going to plug it in, take it out, and shove that guy in. Pat it down a little, and then we'll water it in, and we're going to leave these kind of in a mostly shaded area for a while until them roots produce. It won't be able to stand the sun without a root system, so keep them in the shade, even indoors under grow lights if you want. I'm going to try them out here though. I think that'll be a good place for that first tomato transplant we did. It'll be blocked by the big pot when the sun comes up in the morning. It'll get a little diffused sunlight through the tomato plant above it, but not direct. Keep it moist. Once them roots take and it starts growing, then you can figure out where you want to put it. So there is one of the tomato plant transplants off a dying plant. That's basically the second generation of that plant. If you can just keep them going and keep them going and keep taking clippings off, those plants are going to get real hardy to your backyard. So that's something to think about. Take clippings, start a new plant, let it grow, let it fruit, take clippings off of that one, start another plant. I mean, you can have your own tomato plant going for as long as you do that, as many years as you do it. So, interesting little tidbit. Now it's about time for resort style life this afternoon. Tyler wanted to play again in his pool, so it's filled back up and ready to go after his nap. What's up guys? So I could be growing more things in my garden right now. I could be growing melons, I could be growing sunflowers, I could be growing all kinds of hot weather stuff. But I'm about to redo this garden. We're about to do 3 new raised beds, totally revamp it. So I don't want to start putting a plant in that's going to take me a long time to grow. So right now, the garden is what it is. It's going to stay dormant like this for, you know, growing tomatoes, some peppers and stuff. But for the most part, we're about to remodel the garden. So that's why I'm not growing as much as I could be growing right now. That's going to be fun videos. So there we go. That was the weekend. We analyzed the garden a little bit. We took some clippings off of 3 tomatoes. So there's the analysis of the garden. Future episodes, we're going to be remodeling the garden. And I clipped some of those pieces off the tomato plants, started new plants. Hopefully they start growing good. Once they take root, I think they'll be fine. I did have someone ask me, we're moving down to zone 9. Any recommendations or anything you can offer as far as how to plant out here, how to garden out here? Well, gardening here is a lot different than up north. You guys have like 3 to 4 months where you plant your lettuce, your corn, your cucumber, everything in one blow. Down here in zone 9, guys, wintertime is for growing our greens, our kales, and our radishes, and our cool season stuff. During the winter when you guys are snowed in. Summertime is all the hot stuff, the melons, the tomatoes, the hot peppers, and stuff like that. So just know that you have a longer growing season that you could divide out throughout the year. One recommendation would be great compost in your raised beds. It'll hold moisture in a lot better than regular topsoil and stuff like that. Make sure you are adding something that'll absorb that water to hold it, like peat moss possibly, or cocoa coir. Also mulching your garden. Mulch it deep, that way it keeps that soil cool, helps out with that root system.